One of the first jobs I had was as an after-hours janitor at Walmart. I worked from 9:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. when the manager got there. Now I was typically with two others, but it varied. And on a few nights I was alone, one of the only things I found creepy was the warehouse downstairs. It was the same size as the actual Walmart, and we had to go down there to grab the soap to run the machine we used to wash the floors. We rarely needed to, as there were a few left out for us. One night I was there, alone. I had used all the floor cleaner and had to go down to the warehouse to get some soap. It already had an eerie vibe to it, pretty dimly lit honestly. I walked over to grab the soap. This was around 2 in the morning, so I still had quite a bit more time. I was grabbing the soap when I heard echoed footsteps. I was the only one there. I walked out of the aisle to see what looked to be a mid-20 male. "Who are you?" I yelled at him, shivering. He said his name was Josh. This was his first night on the job. He was told to look for the other worker to get some assistance, and was told that the warehouse was where we got soap and also where the break room was. I was creeped out, but he seemed legit. He knew the manager's name and answered all the questions I asked him. We started working and everything was going well. He took an hour break at 5, pretty much to get out of work early, and said he would see me tomorrow night. The clock hit 6, and soon after my manager arrived, I asked why he didn't tell me about Josh. He looked confused. The new night worker? What he told me made the hairs on my neck stand up. There is no new night employee. You were working alone tonight. Was someone here with you? A police report was filed, but to my knowledge, nothing has really come up. I quit the job the next day and never went back to that Walmart again. I currently live in a smaller rural town. It's pretty removed, but still has a lot of good shopping and eating options in public spaces. We even have a few breweries and bars now. It's a newly hip place with farming on the outskirts, so I can get my eggs and veggies fresh from the source. The pandemic really hurt business locally though, and pretty much the only regular delivery options were Walmart and Amazon for a minute. I was pretty stoked when much later more local options popped up on various apps. However, at this time for main necessities and grocery items, there weren't any options besides getting a store delivery from the Walmart a town over. This meant a lot of people we didn't know well popping through, and it drove some of the older folks crazy, all over the neighborhood talking about cars and people they didn't recognize, etc. I embraced it. It made my life easier. It was great for a bit. So at this point, I lived with my teenage son, who is a gangly 6 feet 4 inches, and my then BF was staying to be near his elderly parents. He's 6 feet 3 inches and broadly built. It's a tiny space, and I felt a little cramped with the big guys always around. So once in a while, I'd send them off on an errand, or they'd visit my BF's parents and give me some space to work on things, or just enjoy being alone. One of those days, I got a delivery. I recognized the guy and said hi, tipped him well, went about my life. An hour later, he was back at my door. He was kind of weird. He was creepy because I have steps in front of my door, but no porch. He would knock and stand beside the steps where I couldn't see him through the eye hole. But I could see him through the window he was next to, so I talked through the window like, "Sup, can I help you?" I have window film over the lower window for privacy, but I can stand on my couch and see through the upper window above people's heads and see outside, and the upper window pulls down too, to let in air multiple ways. He kept trying to look for where my voice was coming from before answering and telling me he had left a bag in the delivery. I confirmed I got it all and thanked him. He left. I didn't want to open the door again after he noticed I was alone. I got new neighbors directly in the unit across from me. They got a Ring camera. She reached out to me and told me someone had come by knocking and had sat on my steps for about half an hour. I was down at my BF's house with my son at the time, and she sent me the Ring cam stop still. It looked like that guy, and it was like 8 p.m. I didn't have any open orders either. I reached out to Walmart, and they were totally unhelpful. They told me they'd be making sure he didn't deliver anything to me in the future, but wouldn't give me any info I could pass on to security or the police in case anything further happened. I wanted to at least file a report with my security in case anything happened again because it felt really weird. But they told me the police would need to reach out. I had the feeling it would escalate, and it did. I didn't want to be home alone anymore. I didn't order delivery, I just tried to cover my bases. However, my neighbor did order a delivery, and somehow it came through, That guy again. So he was in the property anyway, and just 3, get away from my door. The creepy thing was I heard it being dropped off and had the urge to look through the peephole and saw it standing right in front of my stairs looking around my door and living room windows. He stood there for like 5 minutes until my neighbor upended the door to get her groceries, and I told her, that's the guy from the Ring camera. She contacted Walmart too and asked if he doesn't deliver anything anymore. A few weeks went by and Christmas was around the corner. I had ordered a few items from Amazon and they were all arriving together. I knew they were on my front porch. I could hear them carrying dropped and the delivery guy knocked. I saw him walk off. My BF was on the couch with his headphones on working, and I was cooking dinner. I figured I'd grab them in a moment. They are fine on my steps at the moment, and there's a camera there. If anything happens, it'll be 5 minutes tops. I finished plating and brought the food in, and as I was setting the plates down, the front door knob, which wasn't locked, gave a tiny turn. The deadbolt was still latched, but the knob wasn't, and I could hear it. My BF couldn't. I stopped and pointed it out. My BF is completely oblivious to these kinds of things. He took his headphones off, peeking through the top window and said, "Oh, you must be hearing things. No one's touching your doorknob. There's no one out there." He walked over and ripped the door open to show me there was nothing there. But here's the guy again, crouched up against the wall under the window, hands still on the knob trying to turn it silently. He looked modified to see him opening the door, and when my son came up too, he looked really confused. He asked for me. He must have known my name from the deliveries because he used the name I have on my account, which isn't the name everyone knows me by. My BF asked what he needed, and the guy reached down and picked up the Amazon box and said delivery and handed it out and then left. It was really strange. I explained to my BF that he was not delivering those boxes. They were already there. We took the footage to the police, and I tried to reach out to Walmart. The police told me they reached out to Walmart and just got a bunch of clueless, basic customer service agents with no idea how to proceed, and that if he came back, I needed to call them ASAP so they could get to him in person. I was really scared though. I was glad he knew I wasn't in the house alone now, but I felt like he might take more drastic measures knowing that too. IDK how people like that think so. I was just running through every possible scenario. The sprinkler system automatically kicks in at 11 p.m. It cycles through the plot of land for an hour. It starts at my bedroom wall, which faces the parking lot. By midnight, it's gone around the entire space in tandem and reaches the front lawn space to the right of my front door. I'm in bed when I hear it click on. It's noisy because it hits gravel too. It covered up a lot of the sounds. When it switched off to the next area, I heard a strange shuffling. We have a lot of cats outside though. I wasn't too alarmed. There's one window at the side of my house that faces the front lawn spots, but it's blocked off by a large entertainment system. It's the only blocked window I have, and besides my bedroom window, it's also the only one not visible from the Ring camera. But all my windows are always locked overnight. The next morning when I was leaving for work, the window screens were both removed and placed beneath the windows. There were handprints smudged all over the glass. There were no clear footprints, just deep muddy sloshes. I filed another report and they were similarly unhelpful, basically telling me I needed a camera and to stay up to make sure I could see it happen and call in. I didn't even bother contacting Walmart again. They were totally useless. The last thing to happen was when my BF was coming over pretty late. He worked a long day. He came up around 3 a.m. I knew he was coming, but I was woken up by loud fighting outside. He had pulled into the parking lot and this guy was underneath my car. He scrambled under when the car was pulling in. My BF pretended to walk to the fire and watched him slide out and try to hide behind the parked cars, but it looked like he was messing with my car. He had him pinned and I called the police. There was an AirTag taped under my car. He was trying to track me away from my house. The guy was arrested with other charges too. I didn't hear anything else from it. I gave statements and incident report numbers and was told I might need to testify, but it's never happened. I haven't had any incidents since then though. When I was 13 years old, my father and I would take daily trips to our local laundromat to do our drying because while we had a washing machine at home, our dryer had died and we couldn't afford to get a new one. Usually, we just sit in the car in the parking lot and listen to the radio or go for a drive along the river. However, with the winter weather quickly approaching, my father needed to get some new wiper blades for his windshield wipers and decided to drive up the road to Walmart. While he went to the automotive section, I decided to go over to the books and magazines to see if they had anything that interested me. As I perused the shelves, looking at the graphic novels and paperback books, I heard a kind of soft sobbing coming from behind me. I walked to the end of the aisle and saw the source was a guy, a few aisles over, sitting on the bench near the pharmacy section. He saw me looking at him, stood up, and moved down an adjacent aisle. Returning to what I was doing, I decided on getting Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 3, titled Double Trouble, and I was about to join my father in the automotive section when he texted me and asked me to grab him some deodorant from Health and Beauty. I walked down the few aisles to the Health and Beauty section, and that's when I saw the guy again. He was just standing, staring at the shaving cream, still sobbing, and I just shook my head and grabbed a thing of Old Spice deodorant, my father's brand, and was about to leave when I heard a loud huffing sound followed by a loud grunting. I turned to see the sad guy standing there holding a razor blade in his left finger, stained with blood and blood pouring from his wrist of his right arm. I immediately ran from the aisle looking for someone and found an employee nearby stocking shelves. "Help!" I shouted, pointing to the Health and Beauty section. "A guy just slit his wrist over there." The next several minutes were a blur of employees and paramedics who rushed over to help the guy, and my father and I watched as he was wheeled out on a stretcher and loaded into the ambulance. According to the newspaper, a few days later, the guy survived his suicide attempt, having sliced horizontally instead of vertically. Turns out he had been newly divorced from his wife of 10 years and didn't want to be alone. I hope that he got the help that he needed and didn't try to kill himself again.